What's up, everyone? I'm Nick Raboy from MongoDB, and I'm with Karen Ualami. Did I say it right this time? No.
It's like, so you see the Twitter thing at the bottom, or it's like on my Twitter thing, it's you old maid. Just say that. If
You
you say
old
you
maid.
old
All right.
maid, and then take out the D's, and you'll be perfect. Karen you old
Perfect.
maid. So
Got it. We're gonna we're gonna be doing some search-related activities here on the stream today. So Karen has built this fabulous soccer-based application because she's a huge soccer fan, and I know zero about soccer, so she's gonna educate me as well today. But we're gonna get down and dirty with using some features of MongoDB that a lot of people have requested from us in the past few months. So we're going to be exploring things like full text search, GraphQL, serverless functions, kind of the whole spectrum here, right, Karen?
yes. So one of the things that I really like is in this application, I'm going to show, I built it just to show basically Atlas Search and how you could query your MongoDB data. But today, we're going to show, we're going to start off doing a primer of that, but then we're going to integrate GraphQL so you can start combining your searches with your MongoDB data with external data sources and other MongoDB collections, and then you can create something really, really cool. From Vegas, I'm from Austin. Where's everyone watching from?
Yeah, perfect time to reiterate right now if we haven't already, but we're live. So we're doing this because we want to engage with you in the chat and get your questions answered on these topics because they are requested. And this is an opportunity to engage with us versus just watching something on demand or things like that. So it's a good opportunity. We have Luce in the UK, Megan in Vegas. I'm sure people will trickle in as you trickle in. If you still see the chat, I don't know if it stays in the list, but drop where you're tuning in from so we can see where everyone's at.
So I'll just go ahead and get started with what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
So this is us. We've never been in the same room together, but I thought that's what we would look like.
I'm wearing the same shirt.
He has the same shirt on.
I thought it'd be appropriate.
I would not recognize you if you weren't dressed this way.
Yeah.
So today I had mentioned we're going to be talking about Atlas Search. I'm going to show this soccer demo app. So I wrote an application. I've written a couple applications to show you how to sort of query your data, and it gives you the call. So as you interact with pieces in the UI, it'll show you how to build those queries out for you, what you're actually doing on the back end. After I show the demo, then we're going to start playing around with GraphQL. We're going to use custom resolvers to build search into GraphQL call. We're going to create relationships between different data collections inside GraphQL. Obviously, I'm going to tell you why you'll want to do that. And then we're going to incorporate external data, a TikTok API that Nick found inside of the same application. And then hopefully, if we have time, we'll be able to talk about architecture performance. But I have all sorts of materials about all sorts of things. If you guys want to talk about indexing or anything like that, we can do that as well. So just let us know. All of this is done with the soccer theme. I'm in a good mood today because France is in the championship with Argentina. Anyway, if you watched that game, it was, I think we won 2-0, but it feels always really, really close. It was a really exciting game. So I could not watch it because my husband was upstairs watching it. He has horrible nervous energy. So I just kind of worked. I don't know why he gets so nervous, but just in case we play Argentina, and just in case it doesn't happen, I'm enjoying this. So every time we get every time we win, we get like another one of these little stars. I'm hoping we get 3 stars on this jersey. And so I actually wrote this application kind of a few years ago because my family is really into soccer and I'm not really into soccer. Nick said I'm into soccer. I'm into soccer. I hate to say it when we're winning. But when my family sort of talks about soccer, they have they talk about all these names. So my husband's French and my son is German, and they can say all these names in all these different languages, and I don't know who they're talking about, so I can't really Google them. So when we launched Atlas Search, I thought this would be kind of a fun use case.
So when you watch soccer, or football, if you're not in the United States, when you watch that at home, is it like watching an episode of Ted Lasso in your house? Like, do you get all nuts about it?
Well, Ted Lasso always ends happy.
Does it?
Soccer, yes. And soccer games do not always end happy. In fact, one of my favorite things was I was in Brazil once, paragliding, and we landed, and then some of us went to it was inside Rio. So it was 2 teams inside Rio playing for like the quarterfinals of Brazil. And they tied. Like, it was a really fun atmosphere. Highly recommended if you ever go there to go to a soccer game. But then it tied, and the whole stadium left mad. So I thought it was just really funny. I'm like, oh, I had a great time, but like, how can the entire stadium be mad if you're upset? So we'll go ahead and start querying for these data. So Nick doesn't know. I'll also have him do it. So let me show you this app that we're
roped into something.
Yeah. Let me show you this app that we're gonna show. Which way is it? Here we go.
I was just here to cheer Karen on.
Nick and I, we work well together because we're complete opposites. So in this application, you get to like search for players, and then you get add them to. So this is kind of my dream team. So of course I have Mbappe, and then this guy who scored that amazing goal a couple weeks ago, Richarlison. And I've had Cristiano Ronaldo here, but I've been afraid to remove him because I don't want to hurt his feelings. But I'll remove him just because Argentina is in here, and I want to put an Argentinian player. So the whole idea of the app is that I have different operators inside of search, and we'll show you more of these operators later. But if you go to atlassearchsoccer.com, Nick, you can go to anybody watch it. You could go to this, and it works for you as well. We'll do Messi.
All right, I'll put a link in the chat.
Thank you very much. So we can find like all the Messis, and then you can find if we've misspelled them. So this is the code that we build inside search. But if we wanted to do, so I can add Messi to the team. In fact, Messi deserves a spot on the team. So if I want to add him to the team, my spot should be highlighted. Let me.
I know you presented this application on a stream a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
At least part of it.
Mm-hmm.
For anyone who didn't catch that stream and they're just watching it now, do you have the code somewhere? Can they check out the code as well?
Yeah, it's if you have the
is it linked anywhere on this?
If you go to, no, that's a good idea. I should probably build another page for that. But you can find the link if you don't mind putting it in the chat. It's in MongoDB Developer Atlas-Search.
All right, I'm gonna try to dig it up.
Thank you. So you can look for players like that if they're misspelled. One thing I like to do is, for instance, one example I like to give is Ronaldo, the one that I just took off the team. If I do Ronaldo, this is finding like all the sorts of different Ronaldos, but then I can sort of play around with the results and move them around. So I'll show you this more in a second, but if I wanted to get like the functions, if I want to get the highest rated Ronaldo, based on that overall score, I hit function score, and then I can add him, and he goes to the top of the field. But another thing is we talk about how to find players that are hard to spell. Oh, I'll stump Nick with this one. Let me get him off. So we'll go back to that one in a second. But the other thing is we can do Luce. You're on. Where are you? Luce is from Northern England. Luce, are you Manchester-ish?
There may be a slight delay between what they see and what we see in the chat, so you just got to give it a.
So if I want to find, for instance, so let's say I don't have search that I actually want to look for, but I want to look at like facets, and I want to kind of hone in on what I'm looking for. So if I say I want players from Manchester United or Manchester, whatever, Manchester City. So I find all my players from Manchester City. So now I also have facets that can show where they're all from. and what positions they're in. So if I want to do, I have left back, 3 left back players. Oh, and I broke it. That's not a great thing.
No.
So I'll have to figure that out. I've been working on a whole bunch of things, but I can find different players here. So let's just say, let's do something simple. I'll look for players from England, search. We can find how they're sort of laid out. And then if I want to find, combine it and maybe find the highest ranked player from England, and I'll do that. And so these are my top rated players who are on England. So this data set, by the way, is 2 years old. So if you're looking at it, you're like, they're not on that team. That's why they're there. So Nick, do you want to give this a go?
Do you want me to sign into it on my computer, or how do you want to do this?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, share your screen. How do I unshare my screen?
It's all right. I got you.
Thank you.
All right. So I have a blank slate.
Okay. So we are looking for a player named, he's Polish and he's a goalie and his name is Szczesny, I think. So
I don't know. I wouldn't even know how to get close to that, honestly.
Well, there are a couple things you could do. So we have a couple operators. I probably wouldn't do text. I would probably do wildcard.
Like, oh.
So go there and then do wildcard. And that means that you can put a star or an asterisk where you don't know the characters. So you could do a star NY.
That's a pretty big wild card.
Yeah, it is pretty big. So go ahead and enter.
All right.
He actually shows up first because I've been looking for him a lot. But so this shows you that. And if you wanted to open up advanced scouting and sort of hone in on this person based on the fact that he's from Poland or something, you can go ahead and hit advanced scouting again.
I did. It didn't seem to do anything.
No.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, no. You closed it again. So open it.
Oh, my bad. There we go.
And then scroll, and then you could click Poland maybe. Hopefully it won't.
Gotta find it in there. Yeah, there we go.
And then hopefully you can do, just do search, see if it kind of narrows down the Schnees from Poland.
All right.
So now scroll up to the results.
There we go.
So this is kind of narrowed down the Polish players who ended in Y. So this is the whole nice bit about search. So to get started with this, if you can share my screen again.
All right, I got you. Don't worry.
Thank you.
There we go.
So we're going to start. So this is something kind of show you. We're going to start here from scratch. I have nothing on this data sets. This is a copy of that data set, and we'll show you how to build out search. So I have 2 collections here, and we'll use them. We'll use the second collection in a little bit. But this data set that I have that we're running on, it's also in that GitHub repository. It has 19,000 different soccer players. And as you can imagine, they all have very complicated names. So the first thing I want to do if I want to sort of query for those things is I need to build it out. I need to build a search index. So MongoDB has B-tree indexes. Atlas Search uses search indexes. So we're going to create them in a different place. Now I have a lot of material on indexes. I'm just going to follow sort of this guided visual editor experience. We'll keep the name default. We're on the soccer players collection. If we have text large enough on the screen, that's Nick.
I'm asking if it's large enough. It might be. I don't know. I usually keep it at 150.
Okay. So the analyzers, I talked a lot about last week, and then in other streams I've done about analyzers. We use Lucene. So the default index uses the Lucene standard analyzer on all the fields. It maps dynamically by default, but you can, for performance reasons, turn this off or just map specific specific fields if you want, but I'm just going to accept all the default settings and click Create Search. Okay, so while we're creating an Atlas search, let me talk about how we now query inside that data. MongoDB uses something called an aggregation pipeline. So in the aggregation pipeline, we're going to take all of these documents and we're going to sort of do different stages. We're going to do different stages. So at every stage, Nick, you always explain these things better than I do, but at different stages, we sort of transform the data set, and then the results of that stage go into the next stage. I use aggregation for a lot of data cleaning. Like I change fields names, I group things in certain ways. I usually $out. I usually end things with $out to write new collections, or I can merge collections. So it's a really powerful tool. But another thing that we do in MongoDB often, if you're not familiar with aggregations, it's a really practical tool to learn, because as we're adopting more and more workloads like search, like time series, a lot of ways you can unlock access to those workloads is through the aggregation. So with search, we also use an aggregation pipeline, except in this first stage, the first stage is always $search, and then we go through different stages. So knowing this.
And I know we get this question a lot in some of our webinars, but why can't you have search in a separate stage?
Oh, I actually have a slide for that later.
Got it.
But mostly because it indexes differently. And when the call comes from, so if we have time at the end, we can go over in the architecture and performance parts how it works together. But the index, I mentioned we create this index, and that index has to talk to the MongoDB index. So when the query comes from the client to the MongoDB, that it has to recognize the first stage, and it sends it off to MongoDB, and then it comes back. Otherwise, it can't really go back and forth.
Can you zoom in on the compass? It's very small.
Yes.
I need to bring out my binoculars.
Please.
one more.
No, you're not the boss of me. Okay. Hopefully I'm connected to the right collection. So we're using the search stage. So this is the aggregation pipeline. These are all the documents that we have. I'm using in this search for the first stage. Super helpful comments, but they crowd me. So the index name, which is default, but if it's default index, you can take it off because it's default index. And then we're going to query for, Nick, do you know anybody's name?
I know Messi.
Okay.
Because there's no special characters in that one.
So we're going to query for Messi, and he's in the field is a short name. And so we obviously found Messi in the short name. So if we were to misspell Messi, then we get no results. So the first benefit of doing this inside Atlas Search versus like a normal sort of text find is that it's really easy to incorporate fuzzy matching. So we'll do fuzzy matching max edits. So we could do that. Max edits 1 means we can mess up a little bit, or we could do max edits 2, and then we can mess up a lot. So it's really more forgiving for how you want how you anticipate your users to be able to find the players that they want. So this is the basic search. This is the first stage, and then we can combine it with different operators. I'm going to combine it with project just to make one quick sort of starter point before we go. So I'm going to project to get the fields we want. Short name. So now we get all the players' names. And the other thing is I'm going to create a new field. I'm going to use the $meta operator to surface some metadata that we have here. So search for and so what I want to point out here is that this score is actually not part of the original document. We have 100 fields inside that original document. Score isn't one of them. Atlas Search and Lucene is going to calculate a score for every one of those 19,000 documents inside of our collection based on relevance. So it's how well this query matches the document. We get the results with the score in the highest order first. So we get the best matches, the most relevant matches first. If we were to do, let's say, Mbappe, we probably wouldn't get, it's kind of a rarer name. let's do max edits one just for the heck of it. So if we only do max edits one, we really only have somebody who's close. But after this, you get Mbaye and a bunch of other people. So if we get, let me add one more stage just so I can scroll this up. So again, we get the highest match. The best match for Mbappe is actually Mbappe, whose jersey I have on today. And then we go down the line from there. So because we're getting the best matches first, we might as well limit, because speed is really important. So we want to make sure that we only get the matches that we want. So if I say 12, whatever, now I get the best 12 matches or 3 matches or whatever it is. So we can create this pipeline.
I think you only got 4 from the ones that made it to the project stage. I think.
Right. But if I were to do Ronaldo, or if I were to do, like, Ronaldo has tons of results for it. So so if I were to create, so I'm using Compass. You can also find this inside of Atlas, the Atlas interface, and they have, you can create your sort. I like the pipeline builder because you can create these things and you could troubleshoot as you're going. Oh, we've got somebody from Senegal on our search on my. I think Mbaye is from Senegal. So you can pick whatever language you want. I think every time I look, I feel like we have a new language in here. So we have Node, and then it'll show you the code from Node, so you can grab it. And
I think the order just changes frequently. Like I get that feeling too. But I mean, there's only so many languages, so I think they just. I don't know why it's not alphabetized.
I don't know, Nick. I feel like there's a new language every time I turn around. So
it could be rated by popularity according to surveys, so that way it's easier for people to find. But I honestly don't know the logic behind it.
That's a good question. But anyway, so it's kind of cool if you want to do like, so if you do like Java or whatever, and you want to get all the import lines, you can add them here, include your driver syntax, whatever, and then you can just copy the code and use them. So if I build a webhook, I'll just copy it in Node and I'll just put it in my webhook like that. So anyway, so that's basically how you build a search query. So we showed the demo. I put Nick on the spot. All right, which way do I go here? We showed the demo. Where am I on this thing? So now we can go. Okay. What is that noise? Is that you?
Oh, sorry. You hear that? Yeah, that's me putting my desk down. I'm sitting down now. I was standing.
I thought you were like putting your food in the garbage disposal.
Oh no, I was. Those were my robotic legs working.
Okay. Are you on the treadmill?
Yeah.
Are you, Nick?
You're interrupting my workout.
Can you share a pipeline with other people on your team or just in code? I'm not sure what that means, Luz. I would just share with them I don't know what that means.
Maybe she's hinting at a feature that maybe I haven't played around with. It might be possible.
I'm pretty sure Luz knows.
Like a code collab kind of thing.
Like, I guess you can share them inside. Can't you? Don't we share workspaces inside of Visual Studio Code?
Yeah, but I don't know if maybe the pipeline builder lets you do that too.
Oh, okay. So
I have no idea.
Oh, in Compass, you can actually save the code. So one thing I really like in Compass is, I always go the wrong way. So in Compass, you can actually save the code here. So I'm going to save it as, and then we'll just call it basic. And so usually I save a whole bunch of codes. I save a whole bunch of little snippets of code, and then I go back, and instead of starting at the top, I go back to something I have and I build off of that.
Adam, to answer your question, yes, the stream will be remaining online, so you can always revert back to this on demand. And there's going to be a lot of code coming up too, I think.
Yeah,
right, Karen.
Yes, and we will as well. Oh, we gotta get Nick coding here, and then we will also put in some timestamps later. So
yeah,
easier to
make it easy for chapters.
So now we're going to take this search that we've done, and we're going to incorporate GraphQL into it. So I showed you the demo. We've done a few things. Why? So I actually have. So I actually. How do I usually talk about this? So I used to work at Twitch. I used to be so my job at Twitch was, I was an integration engineer. So I had to work with game developers to help them understand our very complex HTTP REST ecosystem. And so we had to do, so I was just one person, but we had many people, and this was our full-time job to explain all these different endpoints to people. So one example we would do is we would help game developers figure out who was streaming their game, who the influencer was who was streaming their game. And then once you found that influencer, and you would find all these different people, you'd find everything about that stream, and then you could find out who was following that stream. And then you can find out different things about that user. So in order to build out like one call to one person who is following a stream of a follower, you might have to put in several different REST calls to do that. But the other thing is, not only do you have all those different REST calls, is that we often didn't know what to bring people back when they hit the endpoint, like how much data do they want back. So we often put a lot of data in there, and that would require a lot of, like when people authorize with Twitch, that required a lot of scoping permission, and it was just quite complicated. It had lots of room for breaking, and then if we gave them lots of information and they would pull that into the client through running the REST calls, and it would just bloat up their system. So we think when you start this, it's quite unassuming, and you're just kind of jamming along, and you think everything's great. But when you start kind of overloading everything and everything breaking, and versioning was a big problem, it actually felt a little more like this. And like I said, there was a whole bunch of us who did nothing but this whole time. So there are lots of problems with sort of the standard REST call thing, which is what these things, overfetching, lots of endpoints, documentation updates, these are things that GraphQL helps with. Hello, Poland. We called one of your players. He's one of my favorite players. So in GraphQL, the interesting thing is that you can not only, so my favorite thing about GraphQL is you can simplify the payload, but in GraphQL, you could also combine lots of data from lots of different endpoints. You can do it from data lake, from a database, from other databases, external APIs, custom resolvers, etc. Combine it in GraphQL, and then you can send that off to like the front end or other systems that you want to do through the same GraphQL endpoint. So we actually did something like this. So inside my application, we have data inside of Atlas there. And then we have several custom resolvers, and we use it inside of one GraphQL API in order to create this application. And let me show you. So I showed you this one app. I showed you that application, but let me show you one more thing about it. So right now, if we did, whoops, actually that is what I wanted. Sorry, I'm going the wrong way. So right now, if we did, let me find.
Mbappe?
I don't want to keep doing Mbappe. I'll do Giroud.
Rolando?
I'll do Giroud. It's like I'll do Giroud. So right now, if we look for Giroud inside here, inside the normal one, so I showed you how it does all this code and code previews, but also if you look up Giroud, it's going to find you more players like this, and then sample code for more players like this. So this is where I kind of have fun with the GraphQL endpoint in this particular thing. So I'm going to show you the video of this application. It's calling for a player, and it uses GraphQL to not only combine it with other data, but to use Nick's TikTok API.
You're getting called out, Karen.
What?
They're putting you on blast.
I'm sorry. Football. Let's go. So that was one player. And then when I was writing
your audio is super loud all of a sudden. Do you change something?
No.
All right.
Am I still loud?
No, you're good. I don't know what happened. It spazzed out.
Okay. So that was, so you see how I took, like, you saw what it was like before and how I could integrate other external API to completely repurpose the application, give a completely different experience. So so that's what we're going to work to build out today. So no further ado, let's start building. Let me make sure I didn't have anything else. So we're going to set up. So in order to set up with GraphQL, there are, so I have my data set that you guys saw. There are 3 different things we need to do. And we're going to do them real fast. First, where you need rules. You need to set rules up on your data because GraphQL needs rules. You need schema, and you need authentication. And we're going to do the rules and schema real quick. Nick, do you have anything specific to say about GraphQL and schema? You always make these really good points. And
nothing yet, but
okay.
I mean, there's going to be a lot to say. This is popular stuff, and you're going to see it's very easy to do with Atlas for everyone who's watching.
Very easy to do in Atlas. So we are here on, I didn't set up the application. I set up the application before we got here, but I created an app services application. If you go to this, here you are in your cluster. If you go here to app services, you can just create a cluster. And by the way, everything I'm doing today is on the free. Sylvester, I'm going to make an effort, I promise, to call this football. You can do everything here on a free cluster. So you could spin up an Atlas cluster, no credit card or anything. So I said rules, schema, and authentication. So we go to rules.
You getting logged out or something? Did your session end?
I know, I don't know. So I'm just going to allow to read and write all. I think for this application, we only need to read, but I'll just go ahead and add this preset rule. So I did the preset rule. That's all done. I saved it. If you're doing this at home, it might tell you to deploy draft or review and deploy draft, but we went ahead and enabled drafts because it was Nick.
I was going to say for the write, you would only need the write permission if you plan to do a mutation. I don't think there's another scenario, at least when it comes to what we're doing today, where you would need write enabled unless you plan to do that mutation. Otherwise,
or delete. Yeah, mutation is a delete. Yeah. So so we do the rules. I set it up for players, and then we'll do schema. And then in schema, the nice thing is that it can auto-generate a schema for you. So if we say generate the schema, it's going to go across sample. I said I had 20,000 documents, it samples 500 of them, and it sort of gives you a preview of what their schema is. And this is a lot because it's 100 fields and stuff, and I actually don't want to expose all that data. So I am going to change it to you
have a trimmed down version somewhere on your notepad?
I do, but now I forgot where it is.
Yeah.
So let's do this one.
Yeah, while she looks, what you could really do to trim it down is just start stripping out some of these fields. Yeah. But I mean, there's so many, it's going to take us forever to do that.
Because it's 100 fields. So I don't know if anyway, so let's just delete all that. Because I haven't done this before, it always makes me start from the beginning. So if I have my own schema, if it's BYOS, so now I just get basically these fields that I want out of it. I have a nationality name, which is a string, player URLs, things like that. So I'm going to save that.
So the short of it is, if you've got collections in MongoDB Atlas, you don't need to map every single field within your app services application. So
now that we've rules, schema, we'll go to GraphQL. And you can see that this is a player for the queries. The other thing is, actually, Nick, I wanted you to kind of give a quick tour of this, but let me.
All right.
Yeah, why don't you give a quick tour of this?
I gotta change my screen around and see where you're at in there. So hold on, give me a second.
Well, okay. Before while you set up, I'm
Yeah.
gonna start going. So if I have the first thing I loved about GraphQL, I mentioned is that I don't want to see all this stuff. So if I just want to get this guy's club name, I can pick what fields I want. If I want his club name, I want his where he's from, his overall score, maybe his short name. Take up the skill moves as well. So I can limit my payload there, which is really nice. So I have one player. I can do many players. So lots of different players, and it's all from this GraphQL endpoint. The same GraphQL endpoint, I can do lots of different things with it. So I want to do, so I did that player, and then actually, Nick, do you want to take it from here, and then you can start querying some things? Querying for now? Okay.
Well, I won't have your queries that you just typed in because I don't think you ran anything, right? Did you run one?
Well, I ran this one.
All right, so then let me refresh. It should be in the history then.
Okay.
So that way I don't have to type it all in. All right. Is that, if you're looking at that doesn't look right. So that's not the right history. I'm in the right place, right? Soccer Shenanigans is where you were at?
Yes, I am in Soccer Shenanigans.
All right. Well, we could do it over again. It's fine.
I can send this to you on Slack if you want.
I don't have Slack open. I went into Do Not Disturb. Right. Oh, you know what? There's a private chat inside of our streaming tool. You can go ahead and drop it in there. I should be able to copy it from that.
But mostly what I want you to do private chat.
You want me to go over the schema and stuff?
Yeah, the documentation and the query parameters.
Yeah, for sure.
So
so I'll start with the schema tab first to give you an idea. So this is everything that we have access to when it comes to our GraphQL, and that's kind of based on what we had defined in the schema tab of the app services area. So for example, Karen had created a what are we looking at here? We have a what was the main one that you just created? Something, right? Player, something off of player right here. So I highlight it. So this is what she actually defined in the schema area, and it went ahead and it created stuff like player query input and all the necessary things that GraphQL requires to work. And because of that, if we went to the Explore tab, this is graphical. This is nothing specific to MongoDB. This is actually an open source tool that was embedded. So we have player. This is just kind of everything there. What I can do is I can strip out some stuff. I think we have a short name. It found it because it recognized the schema definition. If I went into the documentation explorer over here on the right, I can click on query. Tells me what I have access to as far as my queries, which would be around players and World Cup information that Karen had added.
I created ahead of time, yeah.
Yep. I can click on, say for example, hey, I don't know what it returns. What is this player? What am I expecting here? I can click on it, and well, all right, now I can enter a long name here because I know it exists in the list. I mean, it'll still tell you as you're typing it, but it is helpful. And me and Karen have used this numerous times when trying to figure out what the heck we were supposed to be adding as an input for certain queries, like player query input, like what's it expecting kind of thing. So this could save you a lot of time when it comes to actually building out.
Yeah. And the nice thing is that like it self-documents, like this documentation is really important. As you make changes, the documentation will update for you. And it's nice to have this contract in between what the front end has and what the back end has. So you know how these fields are and what you're going to get and how to work with the data. So that's just one cool thing to do.
Can you just to try something out, can you give me a field that you don't have in your schema that we deleted? Maybe we can try to access it. In theory, it shouldn't work.
Dribbling.
Dribbling?
Yeah, like what you do when you're eating.
Like that? Like, did I spell it correct?
I can't actually see because it's tiny. DRIBBLING.
Yeah, is it too small? Should I zoom in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just me. Hold on.
Well, if somebody thinks it's too small in chat, I could always zoom in. But I added it. It didn't detect it automatically because it wasn't in my schema. If I click play, it failed. So I mean, the data exists in our collection for MongoDB, but we can't access it because we never added it to our app services schema, which is good. I mean, you could omit certain fields that you maybe consider sensitive or not useful from being able to access it in this GraphQL.
Yeah, you don't want to overwhelm people who access it as well. Too many options slows people down. So, you want to do a quick query? You want to show how to add variables in there? Do you know how to do that? I mean, obviously you know how to do that, but I didn't set you up for success here.
Well, we can base it off of player query input. So we're going to expect a query variable, right? And
let's do.
You want me to hard code it?
Yeah. Do short. Do nationality _ name.
All right.
Close that. Oh, okay. And then Spain.
Spain. Yeah. Does it matter if it's lowercase?
No. Capital S and then low p. Yeah.
All right. And that should be fine, right? Because we're expecting, if we look at the player query input, we should have nationality somewhere there. It came up when I was typing it.
Yeah.
I mean, I could add limits and stuff like that, but if I run it,
yeah. So you have a player. Now, if you put players, now the other thing you could do here, which is kind of cool, is go ahead, do players.
Oh yeah, that was a singular player.
Right. And then you can do, now you get a whole bunch of them.
Yep.
But now you can do, actually add a field for me, put in overall. Okay, run again.
Perfect.
Okay. So now we can, so it says query, after Spain and then that curly bracket, I think we can put a comma, and then I think you can sort here.
Yeah, there was an option. It says sort by.
Sort by, and then capital, and sort by, and then capital OV, capital O. If you start type, yeah, there you go. And then
there we go.
Put descending.
Oh, you want descending.
You want the highest scores first.
All right.
Okay, so, and then let's do limit after that. Put a comma and then put limit 3.
Sounds good. Gonna run it. There we go.
No, you've got the best 3 players in Spain right there, just like that. All the same endpoint. So, so now we know how to query that, but let's go ahead and build our first custom resolver.
All right, I'll share yours.
Okay.
I mean, it's up to you if you want me to. I don't think we're ready quite yet for external data sets, so maybe we keep it internal for now, and then
So
we adventure.
Sure. So did you add me? Okay. So here I am. Oh, so actually, let's do one more thing. So now we have that this is working GraphQL. We have that it's working with this endpoint. I mentioned we need rules, we need schema. Now we need authentication. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build an authentication, and I'm going to show you how you can query this data externally. We have different types of, so in app services, we have lots of different types of ways to authenticate. We're going to
make it 150.
Didn't I? Did I?
No, you made it. I think you made it 125 for the Zoom.
Oh my gosh.
I know, I'm very particular.
Okay. So we are enabling API key, save. I'm going to create the API key, call it API key because I'm original like that. Create. And then it gives it to you here. I'm going to hold on to it even though I'm going to paste it in a second. Now I'm going to delete this in a minute, so it's not big.
In reality, you probably don't want to call it API key. Instead, you should probably call it for whatever the key is for, like in this case, football shenanigans. It's not an actual variable. It's just I think it's just an identifier, right, Karen? On what it means.
Yes. Yeah, you could call it anything you want. I often name them after me or whatever mood I was in when I created it.
She has a variable on her computer that's called Nick, so that should give you some context.
So GraphQL calls. So now I'm in Postman. So I'm going to call this from Postman. So GraphQL calls are posts. we have our authorization. I'm going to use API key. And then this is probably from my last API key. So I'm going to set there. Authorization API key, that's the API key that I have. And then if I do, let me go back to graphical. I'm going to remember this was the endpoint we have for soccer shenanigans. I'm going to put my post in here. That is the endpoint. And then for my body, I go to body, I go to GraphQL. And essentially, I'm just going to grab. See, this is the problem when you make me zoom in. I can't see. So I'm just going to grab all of this.
All right.
So I'm going to grab all of this here and send. And so now we have that player and all the things. So if we wanted to put variables here as well, what did I put? I did a player, and then.
You want to zoom in on Postman while you're at it too?
Okay, so in it I have these calls. Let me just remove a whole bunch of things here. Clip name. I don't need his age. So, and then you can, make things really, really simple. Send it again. So the point of this part is that this is how you can query data externally using an API key. And then there's another way inside of my application. I actually use the Apollo. I use the Realm SDK because I use the Apollo library. So I'm going to remove this. And while I'm here in authentication, so one thing I'm going to do here is, only because I had to look this up when I did it. So when you guys do this, just you can go ahead and just do anonymous authentication. This will allow people to, you'll get a user anonymously, even if they don't do whatever, if you want to allow that. So, so let's see. So now we've done the data. Okay, custom resolver. So the reason we need custom resolvers are all those names are really hard, and we want to be able to do search. So if we go back to GraphQL, now Nick, it's just too crowded when it's
too crowded. What are you operating on? Like a 14-inch monitor? This isn't your iPad, right?
I can't. I'm crowded. It's uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable. So back at back in the graphical interface, let's do custom resolvers. Add a custom resolver. Nick has this amazing YouTube video. If Ian is watching, I should have mentioned this last time, but I was too busy talking about something else. I'm like, oh, I should point it. It's like 20 minutes. It does only this. So I'm setting customers. I'm creating a custom resolver so we can call it with inside the same graphical GraphQL call. The parent type that we have, we're going to make it very simple. It's going to be a query because we're looking for, this is going to be search data, and we're going to create a new function. We're going to call it the search aggregation. So you remember that search aggregation that we had earlier? We're going to use that here. Search aggregation. That is my function name. And then I have that here somewhere. If I wasn't so crowded, hold on. There we go.
They're going to have to get their telescopes out if you make it smaller, though.
That's why. Okay. So basically we have, so this is a function. We have serverless functions in the back end as well. So this custom resolver is going to call a serverless function in the back end. We grab a handle to our players collection that we did the rules and authentication and created the index on. Thanks, Luce. And then I should take this out because that is not, see, I told you that was an index that I named after myself. That was like this. It's my plan. So
It wasn't kilowatt hours. I was always assuming it was kilowatt hours.
So I'm looking for short names. So anyway, so this function, it's getting a name. It's getting the query is actually the string that I said when I set it up. I'm doing search, and then I want to get the best players. That's why I have overall. That overall field is actually FIFA's rating for the player. So you want the highest player first, unlimited 20. So the input type of that is a scalar string, right, Nick?
Yeah.
And then
Should
the
be.
payload type is, so the input type of the custom resolver is a string, because that's what we're like Mbappe or whatever is a string.
Yep.
But in it, I'm going to get a bunch of different players back. So it's an existing type because we already have that type, and it's going to be a player. So hopefully this will work. So now we have this search call.
When you choose player as your payload, you just have to make sure the output of your function follows the rules of your player schema that you had
Yes.
entered previously.
Yes. So now if we go to, so Nick, catch me if I'm messed up, because I didn't practice this earlier. So now I have.
All right.
Let me not be crowded here. Let me make this go. Actually, I'll need that in a second. So I'll go ahead and close this. So I have player.
You're living dangerously by closing that.
Well, I could open it up again. So remember, we now have that player, right? So this is the same thing we had before. So we get that guy. But now we have that new field name, which I called, that first line there, I called search. Oh, actually, that's a good time to look at the queries we have, because now we should have
definitely.
search. It takes a string and it returns a player. So search is, so remember, I'm getting players. So now I can do search for short name, and let's do nationality, name, and maybe nation, jersey number.
You forgot your input though.
I did. Well, oh, right. So what do? I do input here?
Yeah, because the variable it should be called input based on our documentation over there. It's expecting a string.
It doesn't look like it found Mbappe. What am I doing wrong here?
Is your search query correct? Or let's look at the response of your code for your function.
In my go back to function?
Yeah, go to function. And you're saying to array, which is good.
Should I do?
Yeah, so what I like to do when I test this stuff is maybe on line 4.
Okay.
Go ahead and say query equals Mbappe.
Oh, you
so
did
that
this in your string.
Yeah, so that way you can just test it right here and hit that run button and see what it responds with.
Yeah, so this looks good. Query
so
equals
then,
Mbappe.
Yeah, so then I'm wondering,
it's probably,
is it supposed to be like input.query? Like it probably is working with an object somewhere that rather than a string.
Query. Okay, well, hold on. So we're here. Let's go back to GraphQL. I always struggle with like the putting in the parameters, putting in the variables.
Use your history so that way you don't have to worry about that again.
Oh, right. History. Thanks.
Yep. You taught me that. I didn't know it was keeping a history until she mentioned it.
I have a small cache. I can't remember everything that I talked about. But I feel like my problem was how I set up my search. So I do search input Mbappe. That should be right.
Well, what you could do, if we still can't get it, is go in your function. You could do a console log, print out what it thinks we're receiving, and then go to the log section of app services and see what reality was, right?
Let's see. So open up logs.
Yeah. So inside the functions area, because I don't, actually, you might be able to see it right now.
I don't think I console logged anything. So you were saying inside my function to do something?
Yeah, just throw a console log in there on line 4 for query. Because we know that when we manually enter a query, it worked fine. So let's see what the query is that we're actually receiving from GraphQL. And if it says it's an object, which it might be, who knows? I can never remember things properly. So if you run your GraphQL query again.
Let's go back to GraphQL. Run this again.
It'll still fail.
It'll still fail, but I might be able to see something.
Maybe.
Inside my logs.
Hopefully. What's the timestamp on that? 1246? That's kind of old.
So my query is actually not a string. My query is this entire player thing.
Your timestamp is not correct, though. Look at the timestamp for that log entry that you just did.
Let me refresh this.
Yeah, so that's 1246. I assume that's your local time right there.
I still think that might be it, but it doesn't make sense.
It could be. It doesn't make sense because it's being identified as a string. The only thing I can think of now is if you go to your the custom resolver configuration.
I think I need to do this too.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Although I did set the let's have it go. Let's try this one again. So that one.
It's possible, yeah, that could be that.
No. Okay. So
go to your custom resolver.
Go to my custom resolver and make sure I set this up correctly.
Yeah. And then we got James Allen in the chat with a suggestion too. Although I haven't seen it like that, but it could be.
Parent type is query.
Looks correct.
Search scalar type, input type is string, existing type of player. So what does James suggest to do?
Actually, when we did our test, when we hit the play button inside the function, it was returning a player, right? Like I saw that it returned output, but I never actually checked to see if it was what we thought it was.
It returned.
So go to function.
Go to function editor.
Yeah, and
console.
run it. Well, actually, you got to manually set the query. So on line 4 or whatnot, just say query equals Mbappe. It's possible that our object that we're getting back is not, and I think this might be it actually.
Is it query
equals Mbappe? Yeah, Mbappe. Okay. And then run it. And what is the actual response? So it doesn't look like, is it?
Yeah, short name is Mbappe.
Is it nested somewhere? Like I know it's a little bit hard to read that output, but is it?
Yeah, it looks like an array. So it's an array. I've got Mbappe. I've got all
we got an array. Are we expecting an array back inside of your custom resolver? I thought we were expecting just a singular object back.
You did? I thought I put, did I not put payload type player list?
Yeah, existing type list.
Oh, okay.
I think that might be it.
Existing type list. Okay.
Takes a little bit of clicking around, but we get it eventually.
Nick and I were a well-oiled. Let's see. So let's go back here.
But yeah, James, that was a good suggestion, and we appreciate it. We're not dismissing.
There you go.
Yeah. All right.
Oh my gosh, Nick, we've been an hour.
It's all right. Let's keep going. Let's let it ride.
Okay. Okay. If you're watching, we're going to do timestamps, and we're going to let you skip all that. Actually, I have to say I learn a lot when I see people struggle. I just don't want to be the person struggling.
I bet somewhere someone is having that same problem, and they will find value in our struggle right now.
So so now again, we had the player query, and then we can do search because we said it was going to be search and it's going to return Mbappe. So now I have that inside my payload. Should we do, let's see, so I have, and then I want to add one more thing in here, and I want to add a relationship between collections.
Yes, that is really cool.
Okay, so let me go back and show you guys the data. Thank you for sticking with me so far. So again, we know our players. We know what our players are. So we have, you know, all these different players, all these different whatever, but they're all from a particular country. And so I found this data set. You know, I don't like looking at it here. Let me see if I can open up Compass again.
Compass, I prefer Compass as well. The experience is so much cleaner.
It just has a better interface too. So inside, let me open this a little bit. Yeah, it's easier to see. Okay, so I created this data set. It has all the players, all the teams that have been in the quarterfinals and on inside the World Cup, like later stages. So I have 44 teams. It was updated as of a couple days ago, so I don't have France's new thing in it. But anyway, so inside of every one of these collections, I have the number of times they've played in the playoffs counts. I have all the details about their matches, every match that they played, where it is, and whatever. But what I actually wanted to use for this application is I wanted to use how many times these teams were in the finals, how many times they were in the semifinals, how many times they were in the quarters, and the country. So I am going to, and how many times they won, of course. I think it's championship count, how many times they won. So I am going to, this has this field country, which matched in the players set nationality name. So I'm going to link these two and show you what happens when I do that. So here, let's go back to graphical. Here we did, if I did short name, nationality name. So you can see that like he's from France, and then Senegal. Somebody here was from Senegal earlier today. So this is for you. So now that I have this, if I want to create this, I'm going to go back to schema. So I'm going to link these collections. So in my players, in my schema, I add a relationship. I'm going to link my nationality name to the country name here because it's the same. It should be the same. And then now you see that I have that foreign key restraint, and it's going to match 1-to-1. It's not a list. It matches 1-to-1. So now that I have that, if I go back to graphical, open up next thing. I'm going to take off player here because I don't really need them.
Well, actually, I want to leave it there for a minute. Mm-hmm. Can you proceed with it there? I want to put you on the spot after this.
So I should have, let me see the query type. I have search World Cup final query. It should be, I hope I didn't have to name it. So we should say,
well, you could remove player. I'd take that back. I won't put
I don't know why this, actually, let's try.
Right now it's still being identified as a string. So did you sure you're linked?
Let me, that I went to the right one. Hold on. Let me take this out for a second. Should I have done that? Let's see. What I want to do is I want to show nationality. Whoops. Nationality name. So this should actually, why did this not do that correctly? Did I not save it? So players. I have expand my relationship. Oh,
You didn't save it?
I didn't
Did you add
save
it?
it.
Did you add it to the wrong one?
I don't understand. I am national. Maybe I added it wrong. So I am going from nationality, name to country. Add it. Yeah, you know what? I bet I didn't save it. Save. See, that's
Check
why.
the other one. Just check the other one to see if it's actually in there.
What
World
other
Cup
one?
final rounds.
Oh no, it's not. It's
You
not
didn't accidentally add it there?
Mm-mm.
All right, got it.
No, I just didn't save it. Okay, so now I'll go back. And so you see now, I had actually went ahead and created the schema before we stream, so you didn't have to watch me do the whole thing. But you see now that it sort of does this. So if I do player, what am I doing? Query. Short underscore name. Let me go ahead and, oh, you know what? Since I'm not doing the search query here, I'm going to have to do this correctly. Short name, da 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 da. So let's see. And so now you see that I get all the details for Kylian Mbappe, and then my nationality name, I actually have several different players inside of it. So inside of my application, I actually used this call, exactly this call in the beginning. So I'll show you this. This is the application I have. So this was the original application, but I stripped it down just to kind of, for the sake of this stream. So now if we were to, hopefully this works because now I have all those different players inside of here. But now you see, instead of now I was able to surface inside of that same call, all of the different championships, finals, semifinals, quarterfinals inside of that, which I wasn't able to do before because I only used the players collection. So now I created that relationship and I was able to get more data about every particular field. So this is a bit of a contrived case, like when you're going to need this. But if you think about it in terms of, if you have a store and you have different collections inside of your store, and let's say Nick Raboy goes to Toys R Us and gets lots of Pikachu stuff, you probably don't want all of that data inside Nick Raboy's, and then all the detail about the product. So if I want to do a call and see what Nick has in his shopping cart,
it's gonna be lots of Pikachus, right?
I definitely do not want to see what's in Nick's shopping cart. Let's just put it that way. But if I
didn't get that. Did you try again?
But if I were to look inside of Nick's shopping cart, I would have to do several different calls. I would have to look for Nick's shopping cart and probably list out the products and the product ID. But then the details about the product are probably in a different collection, and I'd have to do another call for that. And then I'd have to kind of do all these things and waits and several different calls and get too much stuff. So this is a nice way of querying for specific data and getting back just the data that you want. So, so there's that. So Nick, I know we're over an hour, but could you do your TikTok API, please?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay.
Let me rearrange some stuff on my screen.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna activate mine on you here. So yeah, as Karen showed you in her demo, we have some TikTok functionality in it. Now, I had looked at the official TikTok API, and it looked good, but there was a review process around it, and Karen got rejected like 4 times, I think, from getting access to the TikTok API. Is that right?
Yeah. Well,
yeah, it's
I
like
have to
Apple.
Privacy. No, I mean, I need to create a privacy, this and that. I think they think that I'm a mobile app, and I don't know. It's confusing. So I just let Nick do the heavy lifting.
Instead, I found this API called Tick API. It's not free. Has no affiliation with MongoDB. Just throwing it out there. So I found this API. It actually does a pretty good job, and you don't have to go through any kind of review process. But if I go to their documentation, and I'll zoom in. In their documentation, they have different API endpoints. Nobody should reject Karen. Blasphemy. Yeah, you don't want to deal with her wrath.
That's why they call me Karen.
Yeah. There's some endpoints though. Fairly simplistic API endpoints. So for example, if I wanted to search for just trending stuff on TikTok, I could use this API endpoint. I have my API key and whatnot, and I can just pass in what I want to search for. In our scenario, we want to search for a particular football player, but this will work out quite well. If I went into our app services again for MongoDB, I do have the TikTok API secret already added. I wasn't going to add it on this stream because I didn't really want to expose it, even though I could reset it if need be. But because it was a paid API, I just wanted to leave it as secret. So I added a secret here. If I wanted to use this secret in our function, I would create another value. I would say maybe tick API key, and it's going to be a value, and it's going to be linked to the secret that I had already created. So the secret is still very much secret, but now I can actually use it inside of my function. And I would be using tick API key, not tick API secrets key. Welcome, Nelson. It's all right. I think, Karen, do you want to take that question and talk about it while I
Very Mbappe.
click around?
No, you have to put the Nelson, you have to put in the fuzzy option in your search stage. So that was kind of so you do the text, and then it's query, and then Mbappe misspelled, path, and then the path you wanted in. I use short name inside of mine, and then underneath that, the next line is fuzzy, and that is an object, and you can, if you have an empty object, it defaults to max edits 2, but you could use max edits 1. So if you go to atlassearchsoccer.com and you play around with it, you'll see the code previewed. If you just reset that, no, just hit the reset button, Nick, and just do another call for Mbappe.
What reset button? This one?
That one, yeah. That took me all day to do that one. So I hope people use it. So we're using text operator, and then just type in Mbappe in that field. And then if you could zoom in just on that search box on the right, you'll see, you'll see that's the call, and the max edits. The fuzzy is how you enable that. And there are lots of tunables you could put in, but that one's kind of indispensable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Nick, so we never talked too much about app services. Nick and I are both doing a lot of stuff inside of app services. We're taking advantage of the values that they have in there. We're GraphQL is in there, the authentication, the rules, serverless functions, it's all in there. Again, this is all the free tier. It's just easier for us. If you don't, you can put your value wherever is most comfortable for you. But this is a really nice place. So you have this sort of shared environment with people. So Nick, I actually had to text him during dinner last night to get the secret from him, because I don't think he ever shared it with me, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, because I always just add it to the value section and be like, it's there, go for it. Nobody has to see it, kind of thing. It's all good though.
Yeah.
It's all good. Anyways, going back to GraphQL, now that I have my secret in there, I want to create another custom resolver. So that way I can actually consume from this TikTok API and kind of integrate it with our own MongoDB Atlas data. So that way it's from a user perspective who's using your API, they wouldn't even know that your data is coming in from multiple places. It's like it's the same singular API. They're going to have a great experience. So I can add a custom resolver. I'm going to maybe call this one TikTok Trends. I'm going to show you 2 different ways to do this. It's going to be cool. I promise.
This is the best part.
Karen's mind was blown when I talked to her about this. I'm going to add a new function. I'm just going to call this one maybe get TikTok Trends. It doesn't really matter what you call it. I'm going to leave it as the default for now. And the input type for now is going to be a string. And the payload is kind of important. And because we're using external data, unfortunately, the process isn't as streamlined as the schema that Karen had created previously, because MongoDB has no knowledge of really what's coming in from this external API. So you kind of have to handcraft your payload to be whatever this TikTok API expects. And we won't use every field that comes in from the TikTok API because it's gonna be ridiculous. If I let me try to share another window that I have. Let's see if this streaming software will just let me seamlessly switch. I don't think it will. I'm gonna share my different window. Share Postman. I know that's small. Let me zoom in. Is it large enough, Karen?
Maybe not. I can't tell with my vision. Yeah, better. Thanks.
All right. Yeah. So I mean, this is just me hitting that endpoint in Postman. This is TikTok, not the GraphQL stuff. But you can see they return a lot of stuff. I mean, we're not going to make a schema for all of that. We're only going to make a schema for what might be useful to us for this example. So for example, we might have some information about the author. We could probably get the author's nickname right here. I guess somebody on TikTok goes by Pikachu. It's not me. We can get information like, I think there's a description somewhere in here. Yeah, description of what the video is on TikTok. We can get, we don't care about the music. We can get maybe some video, like if we want the link, like Karen displays the link, the actual video on her application.
Can you zoom in a smidge more, please?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks, Jeffrey.
Yeah, so play address. What you see here in this Postman isn't too important. The gist of it is there's a lot of stuff coming back, and we're gonna see what we can do about it. So let me switch back to my browser, so that way we can make it count here.
Oh, are you sharing your screen? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, sorry, I'm on one big screen. It's a 49-inch screen. So if I shared my entire screen, it would be way too small, like non-correctably small. So I have to switch things around. All right, so I have an array. I'm going to be working with an array. The data that we get back from TikTok is array format, so I'll change it. The title, we're just going to make the title what our resolver's titled as, and that's going to be TikTok trends. And then since we're working with an array, it's going to be items. And in here, we have what is the type of the items. I mean, it could be string, it could be whatnot. We're going to say type is going to be object. And because it's an object, we have properties. And properties for this object, we know that we have a description. Well, we will. In TikTok, we have it as DESC. This is where we can have some manipulation here. So the payload type isn't what we're getting from the TikTok API. This is what we're going to return back to whoever's working with our GraphQL. So inside the function that we create around this configuration, that's where we can do some kind of manipulating to match whatever we have as this payload. So I'm actually gonna spell it out. So I'm gonna say description, and I'll revert back to this so that way you can see where it makes sense in a second. But this is gonna be a type. This is gonna be a string. We have inside of here we have I think we have author, right? And then author was an object. And so we say type is going to be, what did I just say? Object, right? I already forgot what I was doing. This is going to be properties.
You're winging it like this.
What?
Can't believe you're winging it like this.
Yeah. Properties. If it doesn't work, we'll figure it out. We'll troubleshoot it all together here. So properties for author, we had nickname. I remember that. And that was going to be of type string. And you can see why I'm not adding too many of these from our payload, because that'd take me more time than I want to spend. So we have author. All right, so I'm just matching up my brackets to see where I am because I'm very zoomed in. I have video. And video is also going to be of type object. And we're going to have properties because it's an object. And we're going to have play address. And that's going to be of type string. So that should be good. I'm going to save it. It didn't say that it's erroring. I have check marks all around. So I have TikTok trends in a default function now. If I go to functions, do we have Axios added? No. So what we want to do, because I'm going to make HTTP requests to this TikTok API, I'm going to use Axios as my HTTP manager. So I'm going to add it. This is the equivalent of saying npm install Axios. So I'm going to say Axios. I'm going to hope that the latest version works for Axios. I haven't tested it. This will get the latest if I don't specify.
I have the old version that we were using before, because I do feel like there was one version where it struggled, and I don't know if the latest version works. But
yeah, if it struggles, we'll
go back to the other one.
Yeah, I don't recall if that one worked.
It's always an adventure.
Yeah, as you start adding more third-party dependencies, there's more area for failure, but that's how it goes with JavaScript and stuff. All right, so I have my functions now. Get TikTok trends. I'm gonna wipe that out. I don't need that. So it's still a string. So input is a string. So what we really want is just input. We want to say something along the lines of constant Axios equals require Axios, because that's what we're going to use. And then because this is an asynchronous operation, we can use promises, but I'm just going to use the async and await for JavaScript. So I'm going to say constant results equals await Axios, and we're gonna do a few things for Axios here.
This would be, yeah, we'll have it timestamped later as well. So
yeah, for sure. We have a method. We have a URL. Which I'll get in a second. We're going to have headers. So our first header is going to be according to the API, and I'll actually copy this since I'm here too.
X-API-key.
Yeah, X API key.
All caps.
X API key. And I'll paste this URL in, which is, we're actually going to be searching for video. Is it video or videos? Plural.
Videos with an S.
This is where we use our variable from our values area. So I believe it's context.values.get.
Yes.
And I called it tick API key. So that's how you use it. We have a parameter section because we're expecting, according to this API, we're expecting a query here. So we could inline it in the URL, but it's usually cleaner with Axios if you just say params. And query is the parameter name, and input is our value. And that should be good. And
do you want me to just send that last chunk of code to you in the private chat?
I think we're all right. I can keep going.
Okay. All right.
Let's just run it and make sure that we get what we're anticipating here. And I always just say input equals, so that way we match up. So I'm going to run it. Yeah, I think we're going to have to revert to an older Axios version. So let me save this.
Yeah, the version that we used was 0.21.1.
Yeah. I think they just released a newer version of Axios, and that's why we're getting hung up here. Let me remove it completely so that way there's no problems here. Axios and then
0.21.1.
All right. And that should be better. Let's go back to the functions.
I often use just the fetch API just to avoid all this altogether. So
I think I tried that one day and I couldn't get it working. But then again, I don't use it often enough, so it's probably a user error. So I'll run it and see if it works this time. Yeah. Well, it says hello Pikachu because I'm not actually outputting the results, right? So I guess it worked. Let's go ahead and output. Oh, what is it? JSON.stringify results. Where did I go wrong here? Is it? Wait, let me put this back as input, and let me do a console.log, and we're gonna say results. Isn't it like results.data for Axios?
Results.data, yeah. And then .item list is what?
Oh, now it likes that. Hold on.
Yeah.
One of these days I'll get it. All right, yeah, here we go. It got data back.
Okay.
So we only want specific data based on our payload. So we have items list is what we want in reality. So what we could do here, at least this is what I've been doing, is first we're going to check to make sure result is there. And we're also going to say...
Is it result or results? If results.
Yeah, you're right. Good catch. .data .item list. If neither of them are there, we're going to just return an empty array. If they are there, we're going to do a nice map here. So we're going to say constant. We're going to say parsed data maybe equals results.data .item list .map. So we're just going to transform this array a little bit. So we're going to say item, and we're going to return what was it? Description. It's going to be item .description.
Yep.
We have
author.
Yeah, good call. Author.
I'm reading what we did. Bring the one that's working. Author, and then it's nickname. Item author nickname.
And
so author is actually a body. Author is actually an object with.
I know. I have it right here.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Oh wait. Oh yeah. Sorry. You're right. You're right. Absolutely. You're right. I get what you mean. So we have nickname is going to be item.author.nickname, right?
Yes.
And
then
we
the next
have
one is video.
And that's also.
Yeah. Play address. Item video play address.
All right. So that should be fine. And if we try it out.
And then you return.
Yeah, we return in here. So we're working with parse data now. I'll just run it. Looks good, right? Description, author, video address.
It's beautiful.
So let's return it. Let's return it. So let's return, what was it? Parsed data. I don't need this anymore. Yeah. So basically, I just formatted it to what my payload expected when I set up this GraphQL custom resolver. Now, if I took this, and actually let me comment that out because we want to use what they provide, Charmander. Let's go back to GraphQL tab, and I'll clear this. So we have
hasn't
query.
Even gotten to the best part yet. The part that blew my mind.
Yeah.
You go ahead. So
TikTok.
now we've got trends.
And that expects an input, which is a string. Do we want to put in Mbappe or Messi? Mbappe?
Yeah. Yeah.
rather
Yeah.
than Pikachu.
Yeah. Does it have to be spelled correctly? I don't. Yeah.
No,
it's
TikTok will figure it out.
Okay. So TikTok
Um,
do the heavy lifting.
yeah, as far as TikTok trends, it returns a TikTok trend item because this is the custom payload we created, so we can get description, we can get author. I'm wondering if it'll auto do that for me. Video.
There you go.
Looks like it worked. So
Yep.
that worked right there.
Okay.
And so typically what we would do is we would say like player, and what we can say is query, and this is a object, so we can say short name.
Yeah, or we could do this search thing that we did if we don't want to spell it correctly.
True. So this was
capital K dot.
Do I have to enter a special character?
Capital M. Yeah, but I'll walk you through. MBAPP, and then hit hold down Option and hit E, and then hit E again. Oops.
I didn't do anything.
We need
Is it Option?
You hold it. Yeah, you hold Option down and then hit E, and then now let go of Option, then hit E again.
Oh, all right. Good to know.
My last name ends in that character, and it's taken me like 20 years to learn.
What else should I add here, real quick, on this one?
For the overall, player. Do overall.
That's probably good enough.
If you want to do, you could do nationality, name, but whatever.
So we have this. We have the player.
Oh, thanks.
We have the TikTok trends. What we were doing prior to yesterday, we were just playing around with ideas yesterday, is we were doing something like this.
Yeah, we were putting that variable. We're putting a variable on both.
Yeah, and I think this worked, right? This is what we were doing? No, we were doing something like we were doing. I can't remember what we were.
Well, your input was the parent, so you had to change the parent.
I know, but prior we were playing around with things for reInvent, and somehow we ended up with a bunch of variables in there, right? That's the gist of it. So yeah, if we want to do something a lot cleaner, what we can do is we can go back to custom resolvers. We can go to TikTok trends. Instead of making it queryable, we can have the parent type as player. So that way this custom resolver will inherit all of the properties of the parent. So
yeah, if you noticed, what we just did is we put in basically the same a variable Mbappe on both of those fields, which, we really don't have to do it. I just want to look for Mbappe in my user interface. I put Mbappe in the search bar, and I want to get my TikTok API for Mbappe. So this is what Nick did yesterday to blow my mind. So input is
input was none, because we don't need any input now, because we're just going to inherit the input from the parent.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else can stay the same.
What was how did you set up for parent again? Can you scroll to the top of that one more time?
I just put player.
Okay. Got it.
And with that, I can go. I can go to functions, TikTok trends. So now our input is the parent data. So we have everything. We have short name. We have overall. We have all of that stuff. So now what I can say is input.shortName and save that because I have access to it. So I saved it. I'm going to go over to my. I think that was it. Graphical here. I can go to history, and I can throw this out. We don't need that. And I don't. Is there a way to auto format this? I don't even know. I don't know if that looks too nasty.
If you hit
Prettify. All right, perfect. Got it. All right. So now we've embedded it. I don't have it as a separate query. So player would have been a query. TikTok trends would have been a query. But now TikTok trends is like an actually merged together piece with player. And if I run it, I'm getting stuff on TikTok based on whatever came up in this player. So if I searched for players, and what do I have as far as custom? I have a limit. So if I said limit, unfortunately, I don't have a limit. I didn't add a limit to the TikTok stuff. But if I add limit 2,
I've never tried that.
I think there's only one Mbappe probably, right?
Well, I know. Hey, how about that?
Yeah, this is all for...
Okay. So
yeah, there's only one. It would have picked it up. It would have picked up the TikTok data for every player that came back in that search.
So should I show what it looks like in the final app? Show how I put it in the final app?
Yeah.
Well, do we have anything else to do here?
Hold on. Let me try to clear out this bot that just started spamming us here.
You.
There we go.
I don't know how to do that. I would have done that.
Yeah, you click over their name and you throw them out. Anyways. Yeah, what did you want me to do? Sorry.
I could show it in the app.
Yeah, let me share your screen.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Let me move this over. I've lost my cursor.
Here.
I've still lost my cursor.
I'm sharing mine for the temporary.
Thank you.
Ready?
Okay. Yes. Are you showing my screen now? Okay, good.
Yeah.
So real quick. So we had, let me move this over. So you saw these calls. So this application, it's in React, and let me guys know if you want this. This is not the original application, but I can share this because I like this a lot. So I put in, these are the queries that we're building out. So these are all the same queries that we're building out. I used 2 of them. I used 2 GraphQL queries in here. I have it happening on the app.js. Like I call this, and this is where I have my variables, and I have it doing when I loaded that player modal, which is what I showed earlier. So using all that, if we go to the application, now this is always an interesting thing because sometimes the video is so anyway, you didn't hear that, right? Or did you hear that? Okay.
I heard it.
Okay. So the other thing is that I actually in the back end, I also set up another, so I'll be teaching this. There'll be blogs coming out on this where I have other players. I use another custom resolver to do more like this, to find other players for that. So yeah, so I have inside that application, I can do, I don't know how this guy is from Senegal. This would be for the guy on the stream from Senegal. I'm always a little worried about live stuff like that. So
you're gambling here because the internet is such a dark place that how you didn't find something bad.
So I'm like, okay, maybe I should stop because we've been banned for YouTube once already this year. We can make it to 2023 without that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then you can just, I'm not going to open up another one, but you can see. So I inside the application, I use an Apollo library, and I'm calling those GraphQL calls that we have. And then one more thing inside the application that I wanted to show you is I just can't make a big enough deal out of it. I've got one endpoint. I have one endpoint, and I can query it and get exactly what I want and use exactly that. And that's what I'm using in these 2 different spots. And it feels like a completely different app. So I guess this is my love song to Mbappe and Atlas Search. And maybe it's my last stream with Nick for the rest of the year, so it's a good way to end the year for me. Let's see. Do we have anything else that we wanted to talk about, Nick? I feel like let's sum it up real quick. I'm just going to go through this to make sure we caught what we were talking about. So we talked about setting up custom resolvers so we can do search.
Yeah.
So we can just query the data and get what we want to. That's a very easy use case of GraphQL, but then we can combine it. We get really fancy with custom resolvers and use other functionality, search, because names are hard, of course. And then we use relationships. So we connected our players to the world stuff so we can add more data, enrich our data that way, and combine those results. And then, of course, we can also do this with the TikTok API. So we used 3 custom resolvers, 1 GraphQL endpoint, and it transformed into a completely different type of application. And that's
Yeah. There's one teaser that I want to put out there too, and we will not go into detail, but that TikTok stuff that we did with the custom function, you can actually link it up to MongoDB Atlas's data federation. And when it's hooked up to data federation, you're able to use it as if it was a normal collection within MongoDB. So if you were to open up Compass, or you were to use the drivers for MongoDB, you could interact with the TikTok data set, which is just an API call, as if it was any other piece of MongoDB data. So you have options when it comes to how it integrates with your application. GraphQL, custom resolvers, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I actually did. I think we all have our ticks as developers, and this is just like, I really love GraphQL, and mostly because of the pain that I had. I mentioned the pain that I had when I was using Twitch. So if this was, we're going to go through, we're going to put in timestamps. So you can get what you, just like in GraphQL, you can query for what you want and get only what you want. So you'll be able to go in the timestamps and see this here. But if you wanted something specific, I'm You Old Maid on Twitter, and Nick is NRA Boy.
It's just my first initial last name in case somebody's getting the wrong idea here.
Well, my name's Karen. I got to give you grief about something. So just text us, like DM us, and let us know what you want to see. And we're going to be building this out. I knew this was going to be a long stream. I didn't know it would be this long, but it was a lot of fun to work on this with you, Nick. Thank you so much.
All right, I guess that's it. Should we call it? Is there anything else that we missed? I'm supposed to avoid bans.
Thanks, Kevin. Thank you guys for coming, and Nelson and Luce, of course. So, and Merry Christmas.
Yep. See you later, everyone. Have a good one.
Bye.